The truth about why married women are the easiest prey. Stoicism, Modern Stoic. Today, we are exploring a sensitive but important topic that many avoid discussing: the hidden truths behind marriage and why married women can often be easier to attract than we might expect. Marriage is ideally meant to be founded on love, trust, and lifelong commitment. However, what if I told you that beneath the surface, many marriages are held together by obligation, financial stability, or fear of change? The person who once seemed devoted and loyal might secretly long for something more, something exciting, risky, and outside the confines of her vows. As we know, human behavior doesn't always follow the ideals we expect in relationships. A woman may express love for her husband, but secretly seek out the thrill of something new and unknown. And here's the uncomfortable truth: for the right kind of man, married women can be surprisingly easy to attract. Why does this happen? In this video, we're going to break down the psychology behind this phenomenon, uncover the patterns of infidelity, and expose the emotional risks that men often overlook. If you think marriage guarantees loyalty, you must watch this until the end, because what you don't know can hurt you. Let's get started. 1. The hidden shift in a married woman's mindset. In the journey of modern relationships, it is often said that a married woman is the easiest prey. But to truly understand why, we must first examine the hidden shift in her mindset once she enters marriage. Before a woman becomes a wife, she is highly selective, conscious of her worth, and deliberate in the way she presents herself to men. She moves with intention, creating just enough mystery to keep a man intrigued, making him work for her attention. She knows the value of exclusivity, and though she may not realize it fully, she understands that by holding back, she attracts a man who is not only willing to invest emotionally, but also financially, someone who will demonstrate commitment and reliability. This is no accident. It's a strategy, one that she employs to ensure that the man who pursues her is worth the effort. The chase makes her more desirable, and she uses this to her advantage. But once she marries, the game changes. The stakes are different. She has already won her prize. The stability, the financial security, and the social validation she once sought. The urgency to prove her value diminishes because, in her mind, the battle has been fought and conquered. The role she once played, the elusive, unattainable woman, becomes unnecessary. She no longer needs to maintain the same level of selectiveness because she has already achieved what she was after. The man is no longer a prize she must work to win. He is now the fixture in her life. The sense of mystery and excitement fades, and with it, so does the passion that once existed between them. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but over time, as her desires are met, the thrill of being pursued diminishes, and the very dynamic that once kept her engaged starts to change. She may not consciously realize this, but without the chase, she becomes restless. The excitement she once had, what made her desirable, now feels absent. What remains is a life of predictability, where her husband is no longer the object of her pursuit, but rather a constant, a companion she has already secured. While stability is exactly what she once craved, it begins to feel dull. She finds herself seeking something new, something spontaneous. This yearning for excitement might not even stem from dissatisfaction with her husband. It's just the inevitable consequence of a relationship where the emotional stakes have been lowered. This is why many married women, even those in seemingly happy relationships, look for attention outside their marriage, whether it's through social media, flirtation, or reckless behaviors that reignite a sense of desire. They long for that feeling of being wanted again, of stirring the passions they once experienced. For a man, this shift can feel like a betrayal, especially after he worked so hard to win her over, to prove his worth. The sudden fading of passion, the shift in her attention, it can be confusing and painful. He may begin questioning what went wrong, wondering why she no longer looks at him with the same admiration, why her interest seems to have shifted away from him. Desperate, he may try to reignite the spark by being more attentive, by doing more for her, reminding her of all the reasons she fell in love with him. Yet, more often than not, these efforts backfire. The problem is not with what he is or isn't doing. It's that, in her mind, she no longer feels the need to pursue him. The game, as she once knew it, is over. A modern Stoic man, however, does not react with desperation. He understands the dynamics at play. He doesn't beg for her attention or try to force a rekindling of passion. Instead, he focuses on his own growth and mystery. He stops being the predictable husband who is always available, eager to please. He reinvents himself, not for her, but for himself. He pursues his own ambitions, his own purpose, and in doing so, he becomes the man she first fell for, the man with a life drive and desires beyond the relationship. A man who embodies modern Stoicism, grounded in self-respect and personal growth, never loses his allure. He reminds her of the qualities that initially captivated her, his strength, his purpose, and his mystery. The Stoic principles suggest that we must not be ruled by external circumstances or the actions of others, and this is precisely what a man must do in this situation. He must learn to detach from the outcome, to not seek validation from his partner, and instead focus on what is truly in his control, his own development. In this process, he not only becomes more attractive, but he also reawakens the excitement in the relationship. A woman does not seek comfort. She seeks excitement. And a man who can bring that excitement, who maintains his mystery, will never lose her interest. In life, relationships often face such changes, and the key is understanding the dynamics at play. Stability, while initially sought after, can turn into boredom when one partner stops growing, stops keeping the mystery alive. For a man, embracing modern Stoicism means understanding that while relationships are important, they do not define your worth or your purpose in life. Focus on your own growth, your own journey, and let that be the catalyst for renewed attraction. Keep your thoughts aligned with your own values, and let your actions reflect your purpose. This is the way of the modern Stoic. 2. The illusion of the affair. In the realm of human relationships, the truth about married women and their affairs is a truth rarely spoken of, but one that is paramount for any man to understand, especially those who navigate the complexities of attraction and desire. We often deceive ourselves, believing that a married woman seeks an affair because of love. We're drawn into this illusion, convinced that her attraction to us is rooted in an emotional depth that surpasses anything she could have with her husband. We think she craves something real, something more than what her routine-bound marriage offers. But the truth is far more insidious. Her search for an affair isn't born of love. It's born of escape. Escape from the predictable, from the mundane, from the constraints of a life that has become too familiar. The man she seeks is often someone who shares her hesitations about commitment, someone who offers the illusion of freedom. She seeks him out because the expectations are low, the boundaries are clear, and above all, the emotional stakes are minimal. The man involved, intoxicated by the secrecy and the heightened sense of urgency, convinces himself that this is unique. He tells himself that their connection is special, that they understand each other in ways no one else could, that their bond is not based on convenience, but genuine desire. But this is the first illusion, a lie we tell ourselves to justify the attraction and the involvement. In truth, the affair is nothing more than a temporary distraction for her. It's a thrill, a way to break free from the monotony of a life that has ceased to excite her. At the beginning, everything feels heightened. Everything feels like a moment of magic. The stolen moments, the secrecy, the adrenaline. The man thinks he's in control, that he knows the situation and can keep emotions at bay. He tells himself that he won't fall for her, that he won't get entangled in what is, at its core, a fleeting rebellion against the status quo. But as time passes, emotions don't remain bound by logic. The heart is far less predictable than the mind, and before long, he starts wanting more. He craves more time with her outside the usual secretive encounters, more validation, more affirmation that their connection is real. He wants her to choose him. He wants her to admit that what they have is more than just a momentary escape. But the moment he starts seeking more, when he begins to hope for a future with her, the dynamic begins to collapse. She never intended to leave her husband. That was never part of her plan. She didn't see him as a future. He was never meant to be anything more than a temporary rebellion, a distraction. The moment he seeks something deeper, something more permanent, she pulls away. She retreats into the life she's already built, back to the predictable safety of what she knows. And he is left with the painful reality. He is not the one she was seeking to be with forever. He is simply a diversion, a subplot in a much larger story that does not include him. Men often fall into the trap of idealizing the affair. They convince themselves that they have unlocked something in her that her husband could not, that they are the one who makes her feel alive again. But the reality is far simpler. She was never seeking a replacement. She was seeking a momentary escape, a brief adventure from the responsibilities and constraints of her life. She wasn't looking for a partner. She was looking for a distraction. She doesn't want to start over, to face the consequences of breaking apart her family, to endure the judgment and upheaval that would come with it. When the moment of truth arrives, when the choice is made, she will almost always stay with her husband. She may tell herself that she loves him, that he is all she ever needed, and that the affair was just a momentary lapse in judgment. For the man caught in this affair, the temptation is to wait. He tells himself that if he waits long enough, if he proves his love, if he is persistent enough, she will see that he is the better option, that he can offer her more than what her husband does. But time, in this case, is not a friend. Time is the enemy. The longer the affair continues, the clearer it becomes that he is not her future. He is just a chapter in her story, a fleeting distraction that will eventually fade into the background. And when that chapter ends, when she walks away, he is left with nothing. No commitment, no security, no closure, just the painful truth that he was never the main character in her life. He was simply a footnote, a brief moment of excitement that will eventually be forgotten. In the world of Stoicism, we are taught to understand the nature of our emotions and desires. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This reminds us that when we allow ourselves to become wrapped up in the illusions of love and desire, we dye our souls with false expectations, leading to pain and disappointment. Stoics understand the importance of control and reason, and the affair is a perfect example of how easily we can let our desires cloud our judgment. The key to avoiding the pain of being ensnared in such a situation is to maintain clarity of thought. We must recognize when emotions are leading us astray and remind ourselves that life is not about chasing fleeting distractions, but about building a life grounded in virtue, wisdom, and emotional mastery. So, what is the lesson here? The truth is, the only thing you can truly control is yourself. If you allow yourself to be swept away by the illusion of an affair, you will ultimately be left empty, with nothing but regret. Do not fall into the trap of believing that an affair can give you something real, something lasting. Understand that the woman involved is seeking only temporary relief, not a permanent change. Stay true to your path. Cultivate the Stoic life, one built on strength, wisdom, and the mastery of emotions. Do not let fleeting desires cloud your judgment. And remember the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Stay focused, stay grounded, and above all, stay true to yourself. 3. The emotional gamble of involvement with a married woman. When a man gets involved with a married woman, he underestimates the profound emotional risks he's taking on. What starts as a thrilling escape from the routine, an intoxicating mix of secrecy, forbidden desire, and passionate moments, quickly transforms into something far more complex. The emotional stakes are higher than in casual encounters, and he finds himself trapped in a web of his own making before he even realizes it. The allure of a married woman lies in her paradox: unavailable yet within reach, committed yet sharing herself, a piece of her heart reserved for someone else. This contradiction creates an emotional high that entices and ensnares. For a Stoic man who values control and clarity, such an affair is the perfect storm of emotional turmoil. As Marcus Aurelius would remind us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This affair, born of fantasy, consumes the mind with illusions of a future together, of a life free from the constraints of her marriage, clouding reason and judgment. Men often seek meaning in their relationships, even if they claim it's just physical. But emotions are powerful and insidious. They creep in, weaving a false narrative. The more time a man spends with a married woman, the deeper his emotional attachment becomes. He envisions a life with her, a future where she's no longer bound by the ties of her marriage, convinced that with enough time, she'll choose him. This is where fantasy collides with reality, and the harsh truth shatters illusions. Most married women who enter affairs are not looking for another long-term partner. They are seeking temporary excitement, passion, without the weight of consequence. They crave a fleeting escape from their stable, secure lives, lives that they are not ready to abandon for an uncertain future. The idea of leaving a life filled with financial security, emotional stability, and social acceptance is, for most, unthinkable. A woman caught in an affair doesn't need a man to provide for her, to commit to her in the long run. She already has those things. This gives her an advantage that many men fail to recognize: the control over the situation. In an affair, the emotional investment is almost entirely one-sided. While a man pours his heart into the relationship, the woman maintains a detachment. Her needs are met at home, and she enjoys the affair as a controlled indulgence, while he becomes the one waiting, wondering, doubting. The power dynamic shifts subtly but decisively. He becomes the one emotionally vulnerable, while she holds the reins. She decides when to meet, how often they'll talk, and how much she's willing to share. For her, the affair is always temporary, a brief escape from the pressures of life. For him, however, it becomes a dangerous obsession. The more he invests emotionally, the more powerless he becomes. He finds himself questioning her feelings when she pulls away, when the texts stop coming, and worse, when he's forced to confront his jealousy over a husband he had once dismissed as irrelevant. The bitter realization comes when he understands, far too late, that he was never her priority. No matter how passionate the affair seemed, no matter how many times she claimed to be unhappy in her marriage, the truth is clear. She always returns to her husband. She is able to compartmentalize her emotions, enjoying the affair but never allowing it to truly disrupt her life. He, however, is left to piece together the fragments of an illusion, a dream that he believed was reality. His emotions, once carefully controlled, are now in chaos. As the Stoic philosophers would teach, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. This is a clear case of emotional self-sabotage, a man caught in a web of his own desires and illusions, and now facing the consequences of his choices. The lesson here is undeniable. Entering an affair with a married woman is a gamble with one's own peace of mind. A man may think he's in control, but the reality is far different. She has already calculated the risks. She knows when to cut ties and walk away unscathed. He is the one left to pick up the pieces of his shattered emotions, realizing too late that the power dynamics were never in his favor. The greatest wealth is to live content with little, said Socrates. And in matters of the heart, the Stoic's greatest wealth is the ability to detach from false desires and maintain control over his emotions. In modern life, it is essential to recognize that an affair with a married woman will never bring the peace and fulfillment one might hope for. The allure of the forbidden can be intoxicating, but it leads to a path of emotional turmoil and unfulfilled desires. A man who truly understands Stoic principles, such as those taught by Marcus Aurelius, will know that true strength lies in self-discipline and control over emotions. The Stoic man does not fall prey to the fleeting pleasures of an affair. He builds a life of purpose, grounded in truth and wisdom. The lesson here is clear. Don't gamble with your peace of mind. Don't let your emotions control you, and don't fall into the trap of believing that temporary passion can lead to lasting happiness. You are the master of your own fate. 4. The hidden desires of married women. Marriage is often regarded as a sacred bond, with the wedding ring serving as a symbol of commitment, a declaration that a woman has chosen a partner for life, forsaking other romantic possibilities. However, this symbol of stability can, for some women, evolve into a paradox. Rather than marking the end of desire, it may awaken a hidden longing, a craving for excitement and passion that life with a partner may not always satisfy. The truth is that many women, even those who are deeply committed to their marriages, find themselves drawn to the allure of something beyond the predictable routine of daily life. It's not a lack of love for their husbands, but a longing for an escape from the mundanity of everyday life, from the predictability of a relationship that has settled into comfortable rhythms. While the initial intensity of a relationship may have once been intoxicating, over time, the thrill can fade, leaving behind a marriage that, while still filled with love and affection, may no longer spark the same sense of adventure or excitement. What many overlook is that even the most devoted wives can, at times, feel trapped by the routine, by the slow erosion of novelty that often comes with long-term commitment. The highs of passion are no longer as high, and the lows are not as sharp. Stability, while comforting, comes at the cost of intensity. The intensity that arises from unpredictability, uncertainty, and the rush of new romantic possibilities. For women, this can manifest as a desire to reclaim a part of themselves that feels lost within the responsibilities of motherhood, work, and maintaining the household. She might still be loved, but that love, while genuine, has shifted from passion to partnership. It's in this space that a yearning for something more, something exciting and spontaneous, can emerge. It's not a betrayal of her marriage, but rather an attempt to reconnect with the woman she once was, the woman who still craves to be desired, not as a wife or a mother, but as a woman in her own right. While many may assume that men are always the ones to initiate extramarital affairs, the truth is more complex. Studies reveal that, in fact, many women take the first step in these situations. In fact, a survey found that 40% of men admitted that it was the woman who initiated the affair. Women are often more subtle in their approach, perhaps through lingering glances, playful teasing, or a shift in their attention toward a man they find intriguing. For some, it's not about seeking a new relationship, but rather a desire to feel desired again, to feel that spark of attraction that may have faded in their marriage. Affairs often offer something that marriage no longer does: the mystery, the excitement, and the intoxicating rush that comes with the unknown. While a husband may be predictable in his habits and affections, a lover is an enigma. Someone new, someone unfamiliar, someone who represents the potential for what could be rather than the reality of what already is. This contrast, the comfort of the known against the thrill of the unknown, creates a powerful emotional cocktail. The secrecy of an affair, the stolen glances, the whispered words, these things can be incredibly intoxicating. The feeling of breaking the rules, of engaging in something forbidden, can reignite emotions that have long been dormant. However, it's important to note that not every married woman who flirts or seeks attention is necessarily on the path to infidelity. For many, it's a way to reconnect with themselves, to feel alive again after years of living for others. It's a test of sorts, seeing if they still have the ability to attract, to seduce, or to be desired in the way they once were. Yet, for those who do take the next step, the reasons are rarely about replacing their husbands. Rather, it's about rekindling a sense of passion and excitement that they thought they had lost. It's about seeking something within themselves, a feeling of validation, the affirmation of their desirability, or perhaps even an escape from the pressures and responsibilities that come with marriage. When the excitement of a relationship fades, the once vibrant desire may shift to a sense of duty. Admiration turns into expectation, and the door to temptation opens, not because love is absent, but because the thrill of possibility is simply too powerful to ignore. This is where the blessing of Stoicism can provide invaluable insight. Through the Stoic lessons of self-awareness and emotional control, men and women alike can learn to navigate these desires without losing themselves in them. Stoicism teaches us that emotions, while powerful, can be mastered by recognizing their root causes and acting with wisdom and temperance. The desire for novelty and excitement can be understood, acknowledged, and then rechanneled into constructive paths, whether through deeper connection with one's spouse, exploring personal growth, or even rediscovering the thrill of life through different pursuits. In the modern world, where distractions are endless and relationships are often tested by the pressures of daily life. It's crucial to remember that human desires are complex. While some women may seek attention from other men as a form of escape, it is ultimately a search for something deeper within themselves, an affirmation of their worth, a rekindling of the passions that once burned bright. For men who encounter such women, the modern Stoic approach would be to resist the temptation to be swept up in fleeting emotions, to recognize the deeper currents of human behavior, and to remain grounded in their own values and self-discipline. It is only through such wisdom that true growth can occur, allowing both partners in a marriage to reclaim the excitement and connection that may have faded over time. When we understand that temptation is not necessarily a sign of dissatisfaction, but rather an expression of deeper human needs, we can approach these situations with empathy, understanding, and the strength that comes from Stoic principles. By embracing the lessons of Stoicism, we can create relationships that are not just stable, but alive with the possibility of growth, renewal, and shared joy. 5. The silent collapse of a marriage. In the complex dynamics of marriage, respect stands as the cornerstone of everything. Without it, a woman who loses respect for her husband no longer feels the strong bond of loyalty that should keep a marriage intact. Respect is not something to be taken lightly. It's essential for trust, commitment, and stability. When this respect fades, a subtle shift occurs. A woman's admiration for her husband transforms into indifference, and over time, indifference deepens into disdain. A marriage without respect is akin to a house with a crumbling foundation. On the surface, everything may seem fine, but internally, cracks are forming. These cracks might remain hidden for a while, but as external pressures like financial troubles, arguments, or an affair mount, they inevitably lead to collapse. This pattern is not a new phenomenon, but a timeless truth witnessed in history. Men who ignore the necessity of respect in their relationships pay the ultimate price. Politicians, celebrities, and business leaders alike have seen their personal and professional lives crumble due to the erosion of respect in their marriages. Infidelity, scandal, and the unraveling of once successful lives stem from this undeniable truth. A woman who no longer respects her husband does not feel the same obligation to remain loyal. Infidelity rarely appears out of nowhere. It is often the culmination of a series of ignored issues, a symptom of a relationship that has been deteriorating over time. A woman may tolerate a lot within a marriage, but when respect is lost, love begins to fade. Without respect, loyalty falters, and she may begin to seek emotional or physical fulfillment elsewhere. What might start as innocent flirtation, or a connection that makes her feel something she no longer experiences at home, can quickly spiral. As time passes and her disdain for her husband grows, the protective barriers of the marriage erode, and infidelity becomes an inevitable consequence. Many men hold on to the misconception that marriage provides some automatic security, that loyalty is guaranteed by the vows exchanged on the wedding day. This is a dangerous fallacy. Marriage doesn't create respect or enforce loyalty. Those qualities need to be continually nurtured and maintained. A man who believes his wife's loyalty is a given simply because of a ring on her finger fails to understand one of the fundamental truths of human nature. Respect must be continually earned. The moment a man becomes passive, complacent, or weak in the relationship, he begins to lose the very thing that keeps his wife emotionally connected to him. It's crucial to recognize that a woman doesn't wake up one day and choose to betray her husband. Infidelity is a process that starts long before any physical act of betrayal. It begins with unmet expectations, disappointment, and a realization that the man she once admired no longer inspires the same feelings in her. If these feelings of discontent are left unchecked, resentment builds and the marriage slowly disintegrates. Eventually, she may look outside the marriage, not because she planned to, but because, deep inside, she no longer feels the commitment she once had. The harsh truth is that a woman who respects her husband doesn't cheat because she sees him as valuable. She understands that he is not easily replaceable, and she holds his presence in her life as something to cherish. But when respect fades, and she begins to see him as weak, someone who has lost control of himself and his relationship, her emotional investment diminishes. A weak foundation cannot withstand the storms of life, and similarly, a marriage without respect is doomed to fail. Restoring respect is not something that will happen on its own. Hoping that a broken relationship will fix itself is nothing more than wishful thinking. The only way to repair a marriage where respect has eroded is for a man to reclaim his self-worth and reassert his role as a leader within the relationship. He must earn respect, not through force or mere words, but through consistent action, confidence, and a clear sense of direction. A woman will never respect a man who does not respect himself, and without that mutual respect, nothing else in the marriage matters. This is where the principles of Stoicism come into play. Through Stoic lessons, a man learns the importance of mastering his emotions, maintaining his dignity, and living with purpose. The blessing of Stoicism helps a man become a figure who commands respect not through arrogance, but through the strength of character and the clarity of his convictions. This path leads to stronger, more stable relationships, where both partners understand the value of respect and loyalty, and are better equipped to navigate life's challenges together. By embracing Stoic principles, a man can rebuild what was once lost and safeguard the emotional foundation of his marriage. 6. Hidden patterns of infidelity and the unspoken justifications. Infidelity is not a spontaneous decision. It does not just occur out of nowhere. Instead, it is often the result of complex emotional and relational dynamics, where unspoken feelings of dissatisfaction, unmet needs, and unaddressed resentments build up over time. For a woman, stepping outside her marriage is not necessarily a search for a better partner, but rather for something different, something that reignites excitement and gives her a sense of validation that may have been lacking in her current relationship. According to modern Stoicism, understanding the emotional landscape of relationships can help us navigate the subtle and often overlooked cues of disconnection. As the Stoics believed, self-awareness and emotional control are crucial in preventing unnecessary emotional turmoil. Women, when feeling neglected or disconnected from their partner, may begin seeking external validation in subtle ways. It is not a deliberate plan to betray their spouse, but rather an instinctive attempt to regain a sense of self-worth and desire. Often, it begins with innocent interactions, maybe a lingering glance or a lighthearted conversation with someone who makes her feel seen and desired again. These moments, though seemingly harmless, begin to add up, and without the man noticing, the emotional disconnection deepens and the seeds of infidelity are planted. If a man does not recognize the importance of maintaining emotional connection and respect, he risks losing his wife to someone who seems more in tune with her desires. When we look at the dynamics of marriage, there is an unspoken tension that many men overlook: the danger of becoming too predictable and accommodating. Stability and security are vital in a marriage, but these qualities alone cannot sustain the passion and attraction between two partners. As a woman feels her husband's predictability increasing over time, she may start to perceive him as weak, or at least as someone who has lost his edge. It is a paradox that many men fail to recognize. The more they sacrifice to make their wives happy, the more they risk losing her respect and, with it, her attraction. When this respect begins to fade, the relationship becomes vulnerable. The modern Stoic approach advises us to not lose sight of the delicate balance between sacrifice and self-assertion. A man who sacrifices too much of himself, without maintaining his own identity and strength, may find his wife no longer attracted to him. She may start to crave excitement, contrast, and intensity, things that once attracted her to her husband in the early stages of their relationship. This is where the bad boy comes into play. The man who is unpredictable, the one who does not constantly seek approval or validation, becomes alluring in a way that the predictable, accommodating husband no longer does. It is not necessarily that she wants to leave her husband, but rather that she craves the thrill and vitality that her marriage no longer offers. This contrast drives her toward infidelity, not because she is seeking a better man, but because she is seeking a different emotional experience, a return to passion and intensity. Infidelity is rarely about love. It is primarily about emotions. It is about feeling desired, experiencing something new, and breaking free from the mundane. A woman does not wake up one day and decide to cheat. Rather, it is a slow, almost imperceptible shift in her emotional world that gradually leads her down this path. The first signs are not physical betrayal, but rather the emotional distance that develops over time. The shifts are often subtle, and unless the man is attuned to these changes, he may not realize the depth of the problem until it is too late. This emotional shift begins in the mind and heart, and it can go unnoticed by the husband who has not learned to understand the unspoken language of attraction and respect. As a modern Stoic, one must recognize that our relationships are a reflection of our inner balance. A relationship built on respect, self-awareness, and emotional control will weather even the most difficult times, while one that lacks these elements will gradually erode. Hey there, friends. I hope this video gave you some valuable insights into the complexities of relationships and marriage. Remember, it's not about finding shortcuts or avoiding hard truths. It's about building something strong, meaningful, and respectful. Whether you're married or not, understanding the dynamics of love and loyalty is key to navigating life and relationships with wisdom. Take this advice to heart. Be true to yourself, set healthy boundaries, and always act with integrity. When you do, you'll protect your peace and avoid falling into traps that could cost you much more than you bargained for. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you seen or experienced anything like this? Share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Until next time, take care, stay strong, and keep growing.